Hey fellas, how you doing? I'm just trying to get this camera right. Hey fellas, you wouldn't believe how long today I've spent trying to make this video. I've got an idea that I want to share with you guys. I think you're going to appreciate it. Everything's got in my way today, so I've got soaked twice. I just haven't been able to find the right place in the park. So this is bizarre. Woke up this morning, guys, girls as well if you're watching, and I just had this intuitive feeling that I have to share. I have to do a series of videos sharing my experience, well, my whole experience, not just with the 2 years of changing identities, changing direction, a new path in life. I need to share it. There's two reasons I need to share it. One is I need to share it for myself because I need to completely clean my conscience. I've always been like that since I was a kid. I was young. I'm probably no different to anyone else. If I tell lies, if I lie about something, it doesn't make me feel good. It makes me feel dirty. It makes me feel ashamed, and I lose confidence. I don't feel good. And that's primarily what my teaching's always been about from the start. It's about helping people to be honest with their communications in their relationships, whether it's man or woman or vice versa, and actually living with honesty and integrity. I made a lot of mistakes, I'm not going to deny that. I've told you guys about it. When I was teaching a few years ago pickup, I wasn't being fully honest. Some people would disagree. They would say it was great what you did, there was honesty in it. I think there was a lot of good in what I did as well. I'm quite hard on myself sometimes. I think it's quite normal when you're a teacher, and that's just how I've always been since I was younger. I was kind of brought up with this, especially from my dad, quite regimental, hard on yourself. But to some extent, that's made me who I am. And I'm proud of who I am, and I'm proud of what I've achieved. Now, it's kind of weird because I'm ashamed of a lot of the mistakes I made, but I'm also proud of the mistakes I made. Does that make sense? Does that contradiction make sense to you? Like we all are. So in sharing this, in sharing my story, I think being even more open about my story, I think this is the best way I could ever teach my students and anyone who's watching my videos. And I'm quite looking forward to unraveling what's in my heart, what's in my head, my experience, and putting it out onto YouTube, because does that make sense? It's not in an egotistical way. I'm excited to externalize and see what I've learned, because it's like all emotion. And I'm sorry that I take long to speak. It's how my brain is. My brain is quite slow, probably because I've suffered a lot of social anxiety in the past, and I've worked through lots of things like embarrassment, shame, always being quite afraid of being judged. It sounds mad, doesn't it? And it makes me laugh because there's a lot of hypocrisy in what I say and what I teach, and that's because I'm honest. So I've always been really frightened of people judging me and people having a bad opinion about me and people seeing me struggle. That's why I got into this whole ordeal in the first place, and I'm glad I did, and I'm really proud of myself. So anyway, without further ado, excuse me, I really believe, right, I keep having this cough. I remember I was having a chat with Jeff about this, and I really believe it. I never would have believed this years ago. When we change, when we start becoming who we really are, our authentic self, or when we just connect with who we really are in the job we do, or the way we live our life, I really believe it, and this is in spiritual terms, that parts of us, opposition, will try and stop us. And I do believe that is the false ego. And I do believe, and Jeff has mentioned this before in his videos with his journey, representations of people in our life or situations in the world will try and stop us. And that's why it's a spiritual fight or psychological one. So this cough keeps happening every time I go to do videos that are really deep and meaningful and true. This cough keeps coming up, so please excuse the cough. It's been happening lately when I've been teaching. I was teaching yesterday, a guy on Skype having a great session, and I apologized to him because the cough kept coming up, and I think it's the last bit that needs to clear, because I've changed my identity, and I've gone from, and this is my own judgment of myself, people can beg to differ, I've gone from being a very dishonest man, running away from my life, rationalizing my behaviors, to now being a really honest man. and pretty much close to living like a saint, and I've still got this last bit to come out. So there's see, this is true. There's a part of me, an old part that's not my true self, a false self, that's trying to stop me doing these videos, and it's coming up in the form of a cough. And I'm not joking. If you doubt what I'm saying, and you're on a spiritual path, or the path of happiness, because not everyone understands the word spiritual. It can be controversial to some people. If you're trying to improve yourself, there will be parts of you that is afraid to improve because you don't want to be judged. You're worried about what your family will think, what people. I've been through all of this, and I'm still going through this to some extent, and that's why I'm just pushing through it. So I won't be able to do all this in one video. There's too much to say. I'm going to break it down into videos. I try and keep it 15 to 20 minutes. I know some people don't like the long videos, but this is my speaking style. So where do I start? So alright, let me take you back from the beginning, because this might be the first time. Sorry, I need to get a locket. It's just killing me, this cough. It's a spiritual cough, huh? Bear with me. So let me take you back to the very beginning where it all started for me. Let's go right back. Ever since I can remember growing up, I always struggled with shyness and social anxiety. I was always nervous around human beings. That was everyone, and I wasn't fully comfortable in myself. I can't get away from it. Now, this started to happen. I can't even remember. I'll date back as far as my memory serves me. So difficult. I would say from as early as age 8, 9, or 10's coming to my head, but probably about 8 or 9. I always remember feeling really judged. Feeling judged for being alive, feeling judged just for moving. I'm not joking you, that's how severe, that's how self-conscious, that's how insecure I was about other people judging me. And one of my earliest memories are in primary school, when we'd have to do PE and we'd all have to change into our t-shirts. So I remember being embarrassed that my clothes might fall down, I might be seen naked. I had fears around everything, phobias around my body, my image, and just making mistakes, just being seen to make mistakes. I've spoken about it a lot in my other videos. I've forgiven my dad now, so I don't want to keep going on and feeling like I'm bashing him and being a victim, because this series is going to explain how happy I am, and I've healed my trauma, and I've forgiven my dad, and I've forgiven everyone who made me angry, and there were quite a lot of people who did it to me. So I'll explain that over the course of this video series. So the trauma was created from my dad. That's the truth. It wasn't all created from him, but it stemmed from him. So he created it. The reason he created it, because he was violent to me growing up, and I was terrified of my dad. I couldn't look at him in the eye. I couldn't speak. And I really mean that. When he was around, I could only answer him and agree with everything he said. He's physically abusive to me and verbally. So I didn't realise at that time when I was younger, and let me just remind you as well, he was incredibly nice to me as well. I can't dispute that. I would be a liar if I sat there and just said he was violent, he was horrible, but he was also nice as well. So you know, it was quite confusing. He could be really nice, and he did a lot of nice things with me, and I'm going to talk about that in some other videos, or maybe I don't need to. I'll see how I feel. So this is where the social anxiety stemmed from, this is where the shyness stemmed from, this is where the low self-esteem stemmed from, and this is where the lack of trust with other people stemmed from, and this is where my violent side stemmed from. A lot of you wouldn't have seen that from me, and people now can't believe it, and I'm actually glad that people are surprised. It's a testament to my change. So I don't want people to be frightened of me, and I don't want to be proud for being violent. And I used to feel like that because I was very insecure, and I was scared of people trying to take advantage and dominate me and all the rest of it. So after those experiences with my dad, and I want to sort of add to something that's coming to me now, my dad was always very concerned about me being bullied. He was always worried about me. because he thought I was a mummy's boy. I was a mummy's boy. I loved my mum, was close with my mum, and of course I loved my dad, but I was angry towards him, and he broke my trust at a young age, and all those feelings of love towards him started to change towards hate. It's very common, and that's quite obvious if someone abuses you and bullies you, especially someone close. So as he was trying to discipline me, he was bullying me and trying to protect me from being bullied by other people, and I understand, because of the generation that he grew up in, times are different, and I've got to take into account what my dad had been through and, you know, the environment that he was brought up in. So it's easy for me to start judging him and being angry, but I'm going to get to that in a second. So effectively, he was doing his best for me, and I do appreciate what he did for me, because I wouldn't be the man I am without my dad. You know, I can't get away from that. So I'm very grateful towards my dad, and I'm also quite worried about my mum and dad seeing these videos, because they haven't seen them, nor anyone in my family. So I'm just gonna say I'm doing the best I can to protect them, and hopefully I'll be doing them a good service, because I'm sharing my message with the world, and I wouldn't be sharing it if it wasn't for my mum and dad. I'm pointing out the mistakes my dad made, and I'm also pointing out the things he did right, and he did many things right. And I'm sure I don't know any father who hasn't made mistakes. No one's perfect, and I'm certainly not perfect, and I've done a lot of bad things. So for God to forgive me, of course God has to forgive my dad. So when I asked God, when I said years ago, please help me to forgive my dad, because I've got a lot of hate towards him, and I've got a lot of hate towards myself, and I've got a lot of hate towards men, and I've got a lot of hate towards women, I've got hate towards the whole world. He doesn't speak to you in words, but the feeling was, well, in order for that to happen, you've got to carry out what you want me to give you. Because if you can't be capable of forgiving your dad and forgiving other people, well, why should I forgive you? So it doesn't make sense. It would be selfish of me to think I want to be forgiven, but everyone else has to suffer. And even my own ignorance, my own selfishness wanted that, but that's the false ego, that's victimization, that's part of being angry. That's also understandable. So I knew at some point I would have to forgive other people, because I wouldn't be able to forgive myself. It's a pattern, it correlates, or it corresponds, it makes sense. So I had to do it over time. So like I said, the shyness, the anxiety, the low self-esteem, the struggle with women, the struggle with people, the struggle with the self stem from my dad's strictness. But I know my dad didn't want to make me socially anxious. He didn't want to do that. I know that intuitively. I didn't sit me down and think, right, I want to make my son afraid of people, I want to make him embarrassed, I want to make him scared of women. No, he didn't want that, and I know that for a fact, because I know his true self. I've seen it, I spent enough time with him, and I've seen the good he did for me. So as well as him crashing me down, he also built me up. But because there was so much confusion in my psychology and pain, that pain outweighed the good he did, and that the confident side of me. Because I don't believe any human being, man or woman, is just insecure and has no confidence. It's not possible. My life experience tells me that, 32 years of living, and I just feel that intuitively. It doesn't make sense. But when we've got low self-esteem and we don't feel good enough, and we've got anxiety, there is more of us that feels afraid or insecure than the other part that feels good and loving and can achieve everything and be themselves. So when I went into school, I carried that pain from my dad, and I carried that paranoia, and I carried what he taught me, which is to protect myself. So when I perceived people to try and take advantage of me, I lost my temper and I used my hands. I used the language that I was comfortable with. Well, I wasn't really comfortable with, I was actually terrified, but I had to do that to protect myself, and I couldn't speak. I was embarrassed to speak. Speaking was harder than fighting. I'm not joking, you guys, this is 100% truth. Like doing a video blog now is comfortable and I love it, but back then I couldn't speak. Like I could speak in a couple of words, but I was a nervous wreck. And I was quite angry at the fact that my family felt sorry for me, which I know they did, and I've forgiven them for that. It's not their fault. That's actually compassion. That's because my mum's such a loving person, and all my aunties and my nan and family, they felt sorry for me, and I understand that. If they didn't feel sorry for me and they didn't show compassion, I'd probably be angry at them for that. So I've forgiven them for that. I'm owning my own insecurity and my own anger and so forth. It's not my family's fault for how my dad treated me. For many years I felt that sort of anger. Why I kind of felt in somewhere in my psyche, why didn't they protect me? Why did they let this go on? But that's not their responsibility. People have got their own lives and they did the best they did, and they did a lot of good for me. So I suppose I'm partly saying thank you to all my family for what they did for me. They're a very good family, very close, very loving. So it was hard for me. It was hard for me in school. It's hard for me to trust people. And what was even more frustrating was that people actually liked me, and I couldn't understand it. I couldn't understand why people would take an interest in someone like myself, because I felt worthless. And I thought, if my dad doesn't like me, or if he's angry all the time and he's full of rage towards me, why would anyone else like me? But getting past that, talking about the good side of me, I'm very blessed because I made a lot of friends growing up. I made friends like me, friends that were quite shy and into sports, video games, football, going out. So as much as I complain sometimes and it sounds like a sob story, there was a lot of good. There was a lot of good. So I was shy from age 8 to 9 up until 30. I've only come out of myself in the last 2 years, I would say. Really been my true self since working with Jeff, since getting Jeff's help. And I would say before that I was coming out of myself, but that old Johnny Berba wasn't my true self. It wasn't the guy you're speaking to now. There was elements of me in that personality, but there was still this energetic block inside me, and that block was from the past. It was trauma from my dad. I know that now. So I just struggled for years. But I don't know, I always what was I going to say? I just got on with it, because that was my dad's attitude. That was my attitude. Be a man, don't cry, and just get on with it. And the area I grew up in is a rough area in West London. Men didn't talk about their feelings, at least not amongst the big group. When it was one-on-one, of course you did, you opened up. But it wasn't, no one actually said in the area, hey, no one talk about your feelings here, we're men, don't be emotional, it's seen as a weakness. That wasn't said verbally, but that was felt energetically. That was felt in the subtext of the way we communicated, the sub-communication. Because we're animals, aren't we? We're tribes. So I felt that, and that was felt around my dad. That whole be a man, that was a voice that was in my head for a long time. And coming back to the fighting and the violence, it was rewarded when I grew up. My dad actually, it's funny because my dad didn't like bullies himself, even though he was a bully to me. And he was very kind to my friends, I have to point it out. And he was actually very kind to other people. So I'm not judging him anymore, forgiving him. But he was a bully to me. And he always warned me about bullies. He always said bullies are insecure and protect yourself against them. But he was insecure as well, he was a bully. And I was a bully, his son was a bully. Because we were afraid, and I was afraid. So it was difficult, because when people were nice to me, I didn't trust it. And when they tried to bully me, I lost my temper. So all my life I always struggled with my relationships. Even the relationships that went well, it was always me causing this conflict of freaking out when it was going too well. It's definitely the fear of abandonment, and it's definitely the fear of rejection. I've studied my own psychology. I've said this before. I didn't actually really need to go into Sigmund Freud and read this stuff, but I wanted to intellectualize myself in it, get that intellectual understanding. But emotionally I knew it, I understood it, I knew that. You know, we're not stupid as human beings. I think sometimes we like to show that we're intellectually intelligent, and I like to do that because there's a part of me that resents the fact that I used to feel people perceive me to be unintelligent, and I felt that myself, and I felt that my dad thought that because he said I was stupid, and the word stupid had a very detrimental effect on my self-esteem and my emotions and the way people perceived me. And I was afraid to read books because I thought there's no point reading books, I'm not intelligent. It affected me in so many ways, a lot of the words that he said and the way that people reacted towards me. And I realise now people react according to how you feel, what you put out. It's really bizarre, but also it is really inspiring that obviously you can change how you feel about yourself, and then people's reactions change you according to what you put out energetically. So yeah, just riddled with lots of insecurities about not being unintelligent. Couple of insecurities about being from a working class background. But now as I've grown, I'm really proud of coming from a working class background, because again, this is who I am. Like, most of my genetic makeup is because of my background, which I'm very proud of. There were things that I was ashamed of, but I've realized that, you know, that's human nature. We're all ashamed of aspects of ourselves or our upbringing. It doesn't matter how good you've had it. And that's why we strive to be better. That's what I've done on the YouTube channel. I've brought out all of those qualities that from my working class roots, which I am, and all the things that I learned from my heiress. A lot of the things are dark, they're violent, they're dishonest, they're angry, but you know, there's a lot of love there. There is a lot of love. There's a lot of truth in the dishonesty and the violence and the stress, the depression and the fear and the distrust. There's a hell of a lot of love there. And I would be a hypocrite if I was to say there isn't, because, you know, we are part of our environment. That's where I was soiled, that's where I was born, and I like that. And I like those tendencies, but there's things I don't like. So, you know, and it's so where was I? So yeah, so I've got pins and needles. The struggle for me, I'm gonna get wet, fuck it. Oh, I'm gonna get, my ass is soaked. I wanted to prove to myself, I wanted to prove it to my dad, I wanted to prove it to the world. It sounds mad to say this, but I wanted to prove, you know, to my people, and I say my people, everyone's my people, because we're all connected, but I had this heartfelt thing that I wanted to prove that people from rough backgrounds who judged, stereotyped, can achieve their dreams. I wanted to prove that, and I have proved that. I've paved the way, and I've not just inspired people from my own class, which I'm really proud of. I've inspired people from the middle class. I've inspired every class, every race, every nationality. That's incredible. I've got to be proud of that. And my dad's been a part of that. He's taught me that. Whether he knows that or not, whether he's done that consciously, that has come from the teachings of what I've experienced with my dad, good or bad. Take it however you want it. And from growing up around my area. So I'm very thankful for all of that. So it's very beautiful. It's actually very beautiful. It's worked out very well. And I've actually realised that it's okay to be shy. The very thing I was afraid of has benefited me. So the social anxiety transformed my life. Growing up on the council estate, it's transformed my life. It's made me who I am, and I actually like who I am. I never used to like who I was. You know, it's only been the last 2 years I've liked who I am. And all of it's taught me, all of it. And a lot of it I didn't enjoy because it was difficult, getting bullied on the estate, the fear, and the fighting. I've been through so much. I don't want to talk about it too much because I feel like I'm talking too much, but this is the truth. This is my honesty. This is my truth, and I'm not shy anymore. Maybe I am a bit shy, and that's okay. But I'm confident with who I am. And the old confidence thing, eh? Proving we're confident. So feels good to get this off my chest. So what's my point? My point is I want to help people that were like me or are like me. I want to help people with social anxiety. I want to help men and women. I don't care what background people are from. I couldn't care less what colour they are, and I couldn't care less what religion they are. I want to help people. I want to help people that struggle with people that went through what I went through. I want to help people that might have been traumatised by their dad or their mum or a bully at school. That's what I'm here to do. And I've been afraid to do this. I have been afraid to do it, and I've been hard on myself, and I've called myself a coward noise, but I'm not a coward. I'm not anything close to a coward. I felt like a coward many times. I've done everything that God has asked of me thus far. I've done everything that's been put in front of me. I've got scared sometimes, I've ran away, I've got angry, I've tried to blame people, but at the end of the day, I've stepped up to the plate and I've been brave enough to admit my mistakes, and I've made many, but I've also done many things right. So I don't regret teaching the day game pickup. I don't regret it. There's a part of me that wants to say that, and it's easy to say that, but I don't regret it, because I transformed a lot of people's lives and there was a lot of truth in it. There was a lot of honesty, there was a